Are going live. What's up? We're on we're on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram over here. Today we're going to be talking about why is this? You get a weird reflection here. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about custom setups on Google Analytics 4. So if you don't know, Google Analytics 4 is now out and it is very alive and well. And Google is really excited about it, understandably so. I'm pretty excited about Google Analytics 4. I have a few different opinions on it. We will get to that here in a minute. But first, if you are jumping in live, please leave a comment. Let me know how you're doing, as well as whether or not you're using Google Analytics 4. Are you using Google Analytics 4? If not, why not? The Mama Marketer, what's up? Thanks for joining over on Instagram. Let's see, who do we have hanging out with us? We have a couple people over on Twitter. Thanks for joining in, guys. Like I said, let me know, are you using Google Analytics 4? I need to know before I jump too far in here. We're getting some love over on the Facebook. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining. So Google Analytics 4, nobody's let me know yet whether or not they're using Google Analytics 4. That's fine. I will say when it comes to Google Analytics 4, I want to make sure we've got everything on here that we need. When it comes to using Google Analytics 4, it is a lot different from Universal Analytics, and it's actually not as good as Universal Analytics just yet, just because there are some functionalities that Universal Analytics has that Google Analytics 4 doesn't have just yet. So you can't just switch entirely to Google Analytics 4, but you can definitely get some good information in Google Analytics 4 that you can't get in Universal Analytics. And today I'm going to show you can actually customize a lot of things in Google Analytics 4 that you weren't able to do previously. So let's clean this up a little bit. The Mama Marketer over on Instagram says, definitely using Google Analytics, just trying to make sense of the updates. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. So if you want to see my screen, you'll have to be over on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And if not, just follow along. Let's see here. Share screen. Let's do it. All right. This is what Google Analytics 4 looks like. It's got a very similar dashboard to what you would see on Universal Analytics. This front page is pretty much the same. Obviously, I don't have a ton of, really anything on here yet because I just set this specific account up yesterday. So there's not a ton of information in here, but that doesn't matter because what I'm going to show you, you don't have to have a ton of information in here for. So to show you what I mean, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to the admin panel, and we're going to go into data streams and click on the only data stream I have up right now. And in here, you'll see the measurement ID, stream ID that I have enhanced measurement turned on. And you can turn that off. So if you don't know what enhanced measurement is, it's basically like Google's ability to track page views, scrolls, outbound clicks, site search, video engagement, and file downloads automatically without you having to set it up. And they kind of make those decisions for you. Now, you can, whether or not it's going to be tracked and what metrics are going to track on that. Now, you can turn those off. But for me, it's kind of like, if they want to do it, great. If they want to give me more data, then great. So that's where all of that lives. Then you can see connected site tags. And this is the section that I want to show you. There's a section called More Tagging Settings. So in here, you can create and modify your own events. So, if you go in and you create a custom event, let's see, we are going to, you can name it whatever you want, but these are the ones that they have some already. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to put view item, and I'm going to say that people are viewing an item if the page location contains, I think the word is store. So let's see. I'm going to see here real quick. Shop. Okay, so maybe it's shop /shop. And then, product page. So if it contains product page. So previously, to track events, you would have to set up the tags using Tag Manager or using JavaScript. Then you'd have to go into Universal Analytics, go to the admin panel, select goals, type in all of the event, action, category, etc. They'd have to match perfectly, and Google would have to track it. And then you have your event that's being tracked. Then you can make it a conversion. Then you have your conversion being tracked. Well, now I can just say people are viewing an item. This is a micro event, right, that I'm going to track here. And all of these are correct. I'm going to say create. And boom, now it is tracking that. And that's really, it's that easy. It's super easy to do. So you can create custom events in here. You can configure your domains. So this is where you could have subdomains or something of that nature. You can list all of those here. This is where the filtering happens also for internal traffic. So a lot of us know that when you are working with, any website, some of the people that are visiting that website are going to be your employees. And you don't necessarily want to track all of your employees' interactions with the website because they're going to skew the data. So what you can do is you can come into here where it says define internal traffic, select create, and then you can set the rules. So you can say this is internal traffic, and maybe it's for our Houston office, and it's anybody who has, you can do specific IP addresses. You can do IP addresses that start with something or is within a range, which is generally, if you're working with a corporate office, they're going to have a range of IP addresses that you can just snag. So that's where you would set internal traffic. Actually, let's go ahead. We can do mine here. Let's do Matt. Thanks for hanging out over there on Twitter. I appreciate it. So what's my IP address? This is my IP address. I'm going to come in here and say, if the IP address equals this, don't track it. Perfect. And just going to press create. And now my internal traffic is going to be taken out of my data so that I'm not skewing the visits to my agency website. Perfect. You can also come in here and list any unwanted referrals. So this helps you get rid of spam, anything of that nature. Or if you have another website that is sending traffic to your site. So if you have Stripe checkout, for instance, and they go to Stripe and then they come back to do whatever else on your website, like the thank you page sends them back to your website, you might not necessarily want that to be considered a different domain. I don't know. There are lots of different reasons you might use it. Mostly it's used for bots and things of that nature. So you can get rid of that. And then here is the big one that was just released, I think, pretty recently. If not, maybe I just found it recently. So you can come in to your adjust session timeout. So you can say, I want a session to time out after people haven't engaged with me. You can see I have mine set to 5 minutes. If people haven't engaged with my site for 5 minutes, I'm assuming that they're not doing anything, because there's no reason they should be sitting on my site for 5 minutes without interacting with something, right? So this is where you can do that right here in the address session timeout. I will tell you, it's defaulted at 30 minutes. So somebody could sit on your website for 30 minutes and Google would say that that was an engaged user, which I think we can all agree that that's not very engaged if they sit on your website for 30 minutes. Maybe it is. I don't know. You get to make that decision. So I set mine at 5. Now, you can also come in here and change the timer for engaged sessions. So where behavior analytics used to live in Google Analytics, Universal Analytics, things like average time on site, bounce rate, pages per session, things of that nature, that has been kicked to the curb. And now they are using what they're calling engagement metrics. And one of those engagement metrics is engaged sessions. And Google has defined in Google Analytics 4, if you hover over that engaged, and I'll show you here in a second, engaged sessions, they say an engaged session, according to Google, is anything that has a conversion, anybody that visits 2 or more pages, or anybody that visits for longer than 10 seconds. So that's what Google has defined our engaged sessions to be. Now, we can change that. It's in increments of 10 seconds up to a minute. So you can say, well, I don't want to consider anybody as having an engaged session unless they were on the site for more than 30 seconds. Personally, if Google says it's 10 seconds, I'm going to go with 10 seconds because I want to make sure that I'm living up to what Google is wanting me to do and not making it any harder for myself than it needs to be. So all of that is handled right here in the admin settings. And already you can see that it's a lot easier to customize than Universal Analytics ever was. But I'm about to show you something that's even cooler than that, whether or not you can believe it. So all that stuff you can do in Universal Analytics, right? So if we go back to this reports tab though, and go to acquisition, you can see we have an acquisition overview. And it has pretty much all of the different things that we had in Universal Analytics. You can see that they split out users versus traffic, kind of a big deal. Unless it's not to you, then that's on you. Okay, so we're going to come to user Bustle on Wheels. What's up? Oh my gosh, that's my friend. Thanks for hanging out. Miss you. So I'm going to come over here to user acquisition, right? Here in user acquisition, we're looking, and I'm like, this just shows me by medium. And if I want to see, I can drop this down and then see source medium, which is what personally I use most often because I think it is the most useful. But I know that I'm always going to be changing it to that. Literally, I will always change it to source medium. Turns out in Google Analytics 4, if you just press this little pencil in the top right corner, you can now customize the views that you see when you go into each report in Google Analytics 4. So I can come up here and say, these are the dimensions I want to pull, and that's what shows up right here. So this drop down. And I can come in here and change it to add in the region, the screen resolution, operating system, device category, city, you know, any of those things. What I have in here is pretty much fine. But what I do want to do is make my default view the source and the medium. So I'm going to click on these 3 dots and set as default. So I'm just going to move this guy to the top. And now that is going to be my default. All I have to do is select apply, and boom, right there, you can see it is now always going to show me source medium as opposed to just medium when I go to this report. 431 the wedding com. Thanks so much, or the wedding company. Thanks so much for joining over on Instagram. Are you guys using Google Analytics 4? Either of you? Anybody using Google Analytics 4 over on Instagram? Let me know. So I can change that, right? And it's like, okay, Brianna, that's cool. I can also change just about anything on this report. So you can see that I have the options to change either of the charts here. I can click on this and say, actually, maybe I want this to be a scatter chart. Apply, and it's going to change this right here to a scatter chart. I don't have a lot of data, so this isn't really helpful, but for me, scatter plots are a lot easier for me to comprehend, like what's outside of the trend line than perhaps a a bar chart might be. So I'm going to leave that at scatter chart. I can come in here and change. Oh, I didn't show you the metrics. Maybe we want to, I don't have revenue attributed to anything. Conversions, we'll leave that. Event count. Maybe I want to see returning users. So we see new users, and then let's see returning users as well. Nobody's using Google Analytics 4 yet over on Instagram. I don't think many people are. Here's the thing, guys. Not using Google Analytics 4, when you are required to go to Google Analytics 4, that means you're going to have zeros across the board. So even if you're not using it, like not sure if you're going to necessarily use Google Analytics 4, I would at least set up the tracking so that you're collecting that data before you need it, right? Because that is the only way that it's going to be useful. Otherwise, you're just going to be pushed to use this platform that has no information on it. So I would at least set up the tracking. And if anybody needs help with the tracking, reach out to me and we can get that set up for you. So I have the metrics the way I want them. I'm going to select apply. I can also change the summary cards. So the new users by medium that we have here, I can edit and we can change it to a pie chart or line chart or table, whatever you want these cards to be. And if I select save, I'm going to say save changes to current report. And I'm going to say save. And now if I go back out of here, get me out of here, I can see that it has actually created a second report folder. So each of these are folders, right? There's a life cycle, there's a user folder. If you have an app, there's like an app folder, and there's a gaming folder, I think. This life cycle one, I don't really know how to create these reports just yet without them duplicating like that, but I can go into library right here, and this is where all of the collections live. So these are considered collections. I called them folders. They're considered collections. The one that I just created on accident, I am going to, wait, what does it say? Current report snapshot. Gonna delete that. Delete, and hopefully it'll just go away. Delete. Okay, yeah, so now that's gone. But if I go to acquisition and user acquisition, it still has all of the customizations that I made. You can see it starts with source medium, and I have a scatter plot instead of a bar chart. So all of these customizations, and you can do that for every single page. And like I said, you can come into this library and create your own reports. So maybe you have a different way of tracking things in your company, right? Maybe you're not looking at lifetime, like a life cycle. Maybe you have like a very specific campaign and you have a lot of things that you want to be able to track. You can create a collection just for that campaign if you wanted to. I will say, using segments and things like that is probably a little bit easier, but if you wanted to create your own reports for, your clients, you could absolutely do that. So all of those collections live under the library section. And you can see, so this is a life cycle. This is the life cycle collection right here on the left-hand side. And each of these folders have different reports. Is that what they call them? So you can create a new, yes. So there's a detail report that lives inside of an overview report, which is actually a collection. Who knows? Don't know. Don't know why they made it so complicated. So there's that customization. And then the last thing is this configure that I want to show you is this configure section. So right here, you can see, so Google Analytics 4 automatically tracks a lot of events in Google Analytics 4 that Google has already been tracking for us for a long time that we may just not have known about, etc. But they've said, you know what? Actually, we're just going to show it all for you. So anything that's automatically generated, in my instance, you can see that they've tracked clicks, first visits, page views, scrolls, and session starts. And I did create an event that I'm not seeing in here just yet, probably because it hasn't happened. But let me see if I create it right here. Oh, okay, yeah, it's right here. So it hasn't come through. But if I wanted to say, okay, this click is actually, I don't know why, but maybe if we wanted to say that a click was our conversion, literally to turn any event into a conversion, you just have to come to this events page and boop, click that button right there. It's going to toggle it on. It's going to be marked as a conversion, and you're going to be good to go. Google Analytics 4 allows you to create up to 30 conversions, create and track up to 30 conversions. In Universal Analytics, you only have access to 20. And in Google Analytics 4, you can delete those conversions should you no longer need them. In Universal Analytics, you couldn't. Once it was created, it was kind of created. You could go in and edit it, but that would skew your data. And it was a whole big mess. Now, you can just turn them on, turn them off, delete them, do whatever you want with them. And you get to track up to 300 events, which if the events aren't like connected to revenue necessarily, in theory, you don't really need to make them a conversion. So in my opinion, super freaking awesome right here. And then the last thing that we're going to go over really quickly is the audiences. So you can create custom audiences in Google Analytics 4, and you can save them and apply them all throughout. And you can apply them all throughout Google Analytics 4. So if we create a new audience, maybe they have a bunch of templates in here. So by demographic, by technology, by acquisition, general, what have you. I'm going to create an audience for when people event. So that's is conversion event, geography, page screen. Okay, so I'm going to create an event when page title contains, we'll do product. Oh, wait, not page title. That would be when page path. No, it would be lifetime user. Okay, fine. Page title contains shirt? No. Okay, fine. Shop. At any point in time, apply. Then they are going to be pushed into an audience. I named the audience right here. So I'm going to say shoppers, just because that's funny. And I can add sequencing. So I can say if they've done, like maybe we're tracking leads, right? And I can say if they've gone to the service page, clicked contact us, and started a form, we want them in a hot lead category. And once you have an audience in Google Analytics 4, remember, once you have an audience in Google Analytics 4, if it's connected to Google Ads, then you can retarget those people. And so now you have an audience of people that have looked at a service, clicked on your form, for the contact us form and started it but didn't finish it, you can retarget them and say, hey, you didn't finish this. Let's jump on a phone call or, something like that. So this is going to be called shoppers. I can add a description here if I want to. This is how long they stay in the audience. I can bring this down to 2 weeks, which would be 14 days. And that's that. What does this do? Because I don't really know. Log the following event. Oh, so this creates an event. Cancel. I don't want to do that, but I'm going to press save. Now I have an audience that's just shoppers, and I can click on this and it will give me a dashboard specific to that audience. Let me get out of here. Specific to that audience. The events tab does the same thing, by the way. I guess I didn't show you that. Well, now it doesn't. This is changing literally every day. So yeah, guess it's not doing that. Maybe the conversions will. Maybe not. Who knows what's going on there? But yeah, so then you can just go into your reports, and one of your comparisons can be you can select an audience or whatever you want. So that's all I've got. Does anybody have any questions about Google Analytics 4 yet? No questions? All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out today and going over Google Analytics 4 custom setups. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you soon. But until then, I'll see you next time. Don't forget, you're a beast.